You might think that photography and cooking come from two completely different worlds. But what if I told you that the best chefs and the best photographers rely on exactly the same artistic principles? Things like light, composition and colour are the secrets behind both stunning photos and beautifully plated food. Today, I'm going to be breaking down how thinking like a photographer can elevate your plating game, whether you're cooking at home or in a professional kitchen. So let's start with the most powerful tool of all, light. If you've been following my channel for a while, you'll know that I've been a food photographer for the past 10 years. And one of the first lessons I had to learn is that seeing isn't always as simple as it sounds. I mean really seeing. Training your eye to notice details, patterns and light is a skill. And it's not just for photographers. So chefs, whether you like it or not, you're a visual artist too. The principles of photography, such as light, composition and colour, are just as crucial to the plate as they are to the camera. When you start to think like a photographer, your plates will become more than just food. They'll become moments. Let's start with light, because honestly, it's everything. Light is what makes or breaks a photograph. It creates depth, brings out texture, and adds a vibrancy to colours. And the same is true for food. Think about how natural light can make the dish feel fresh and alive, while poor lighting, perhaps you've got the harsh glow of the heat lamps, can flatten everything out you've worked so hard to create. As a photographer, I'm absolutely obsessed with light. I'm always chasing the perfect window or waiting for the golden hour glow. And I can tell you this, the right light transforms everything. Now a quick pro tip for cooks and chefs out there that want to up their photo game. If you're photographing your dishes, find a window with soft, indirect light and get your plate as close as possible. If you're using your phone, a simple top-down shot is often your best bet. It's clean, consistent and puts the focus squarely on the food. For me, an example of a restaurant that does this incredibly well is Shoe in Holland. The light, the background, the camera angle are all similar, which means the eye is immediately drawn to the plate and its design rather than being distracted. I really don't think they're using any fancy equipment for this either. It looks like a smartphone, which just goes to show it's not about the gear used but the intention behind the image. Now stick around to the end of this video and I'll go into this in far more detail. Next, let's talk about the importance of composition. In my early days as a photographer, I leaned heavily on techniques like the rule of third to create balance and guide the viewer's eye. The same principle works beautifully on a plate. Instead of centering everything in the middle, try offsetting your protein or main element. Give it some space to breathe and let other components flow naturally around it. Use height to create drama or negative space to bring a sense of calm. A well-composed plate, like a well-composed photo, invites the viewer or diner to linger, to explore and to appreciate the work you've put into it. And then there's colour. This is where things get fun. In photography, colour is a storytelling tool. Warm tones evoke comfort. Cool tones feel sleek and modern. On the plate, colour does more than just catch the eye, it sets the mood. Contrasting colours create energy and excitement, while complementary tones bring harmony and balance. The greens of fresh herbs, the deep reds of sauce, the golden hue of a perfectly seared protein. These aren't just ingredients, they're part of your palette. When you layer colours thoughtfully, your plate becomes more than just a meal, it becomes a visual experience. But here's the thing, just like in photography, these principles aren't about following rigid rules, they're about intention. Light, composition and colour aren't just technical elements, they're tools to help you tell a story, evoke emotion and to create something memorable. Now one of the biggest lessons I've learned over my 10 years is to step back and ask, what am I trying to say with this shot? The same question applies to plating. When you arrange your elements, when you choose your colours, when you're thinking about the light, ask yourself, what's the story here? What do I want the diner to see, to feel or to remember? Because seeing like an artist isn't just about making something that looks good, it's about creating something that connects. So the next time you're plating a dish, don't just place the food on the plate. See it. Look at how the light falls, how the colours play together, how the composition flows. If you want more help on this, then check out the video here, as I go into far more detail about how to see your designs in more detail. Because when you do, your delicious dishes won't just be eaten, they'll be remembered. Let me tell you something as a photographer who's self-taught. Growth doesn't happen in a straight line. It's messy, it's iterative, and it's full of failure that, while frustrating, are absolutely necessary. The best photographers and chefs know this. They're not afraid to experiment, make mistakes, and learn from them. That's where the magic happens. One thing that's been absolutely invaluable to me has been keeping a portfolio, a curated collection of my work. Now you'll be surprised to hear that not every photo I've ever taken is great. In fact, some of them are downright terrible. But by documenting my work, I've been able to reflect on what worked, what didn't, and how I can improve. The same approach can elevate your plate design. A portfolio isn't just about showcasing your best dishes. It's about tracking your journey, seeing your progress, and staying motivated. Check out Broke Diner on Instagram for a chef who does this really well. You can also find him out on my podcast where we discuss plating. I'll link it below. But here's the thing, we live in a world where photos, whether food or otherwise, have become disposable. We snap a picture, we upload it, and then we forget about it. But the act of curation, selecting, organising and reflecting brings the value back to the process. For you chefs, this could be as simple as keeping an Instagram feed of your plates, or creating a private photo album on your phone. You don't need to share everything with the world. The point is to give yourself a visual record of your growth. Now, as a photographer, one of my greatest joys is printing my work. You'll see some of it behind me. But here's the thing, as a chef, you're really lucky because you've got something better. You're physically making your creations every day. You don't just document your progress, you live it, you taste it, you bring it into the real world. The act of plating a dish is your version of printing a photograph. It takes your creative vision, making it real, and there's no greater feeling in my mind. If you want to take this even further, I've put together a free Plate Like a Pro checklist to help you organise and refine your plating skills. Whether you're just starting out or looking to sharpen your eye, it's designed to give you a practical framework to elevate your presentations. You can grab it from the link below. And if you do, I'd love to hear what you think. So drop me a comment, give this video a like, or hit the subscribe button if you found it helpful. It really helps to support this channel and to keep these videos coming. One of the greatest light bulb moments for me was when I learned that a great image isn't just about the frame, it's about the story it tells. The best photographs make you feel something. They spark curiosity, evoke memories, or even transport you somewhere else. And here's what should be exciting for you. Chefs have even more power, as you can evoke more of the body's senses, not just sight. Your plate is your celluloid, and every element you place on it contributes to the story you're telling. Just think about this. When you create a dish, what are you trying to say? Maybe it's inspired by nature, symmetry that mirrors a flower or wild organic beauty of a forest. Maybe it's rooted in nostalgia, drawing from childhood memories with playful colours or comforting textures. Just like a photograph tells a story through light, composition and subject, your plate does exactly the same. And just like in photography, storytelling isn't just about showing, it's about evoking. The best stories spark curiosity. They make people lean in and ask questions. In a photograph, it might be a shadow or a mysterious expression that leaves the viewer wondering. On the plate, it could be an unexpected ingredient, a bold use of colour, a clever interplay of textures that invites the diner to explore the plate. Your goal shouldn't just be about making food look beautiful. It's to create something that people want to engage with, something that makes them pause and ask, well, what's happening here? Another similarity between photographer and platist is sometimes less is more. A great story doesn't need to be overly complicated, it just needs to be intentional. So avoid overloading the plate with too many elements or ideas. Focus on the essentials, the things that truly matter to your dish. In photography, I found that a single, powerful subject is often more compelling than a cluttered frame. On the plate, the same applies. Let the ingredients speak for themselves and let your composition guide the diner's eye naturally through the story. Another thing to consider is emotion. A photograph story often depends on how it makes you feel. Warm light can evoke comfort and nostalgia, while cooler tones can feel sleek or dramatic. On the plate, you can achieve a similar emotional impact through colour, texture and arrangement. Think about how the colours of your dish might evoke a season. Bright greens and yellows for spring, warm oranges and browns for autumn. How textures can create contrast and surprise. A smooth puree perhaps next to something crispy tells a more dramatic story than two similar textures side by side. For me, the ultimate test of a great photograph is whether it lingers in someone's mind, whether they come back to it, thinking about it later. And I think the same is true for food. A plate isn't just a fleeting moment, even though hopefully it gets eaten. But when done well, it becomes something memorable. It becomes a story your diners take home with them, a moment they'll talk about, or even try to recreate long after the last bite. So the next time you plate a dish, ask yourself, what story am I telling? Is it a story of nature, simplicity, nostalgia or adventure? Is it sparking curiosity? Is it evoking an emotion? Think like an artist and a storyteller, because that's exactly what you are. And just like in photography, the more intentional you are with your story, the more powerful your plate will be. Now let's talk about something that gets almost every creative person I know at some point, GAS, or Gear Acquisition Syndrome. As a photographer, I know this only too well. It's the belief that you need the newest, flashiest gear to make something great. If only I had that new lens, my photo would be so much better. Or I can't shoot this project until I get the latest camera. And here's the thing, it's all nonsense. It's procrastination wrapped up in shiny packaging. I've fallen into this trap so many times, and let me tell you, it's just not worth it. So chefs, I would imagine you're not immune to this either. If I just had that £500 knife, my plating would be perfect. Or I need those handmade copper pans to really cook at my best. Sound familiar? Well, the truth is, the tools don't make the artist. Whether it's a camera, a knife or a pan, it's not the gear that gets people to stop and admire your work. It's the idea, the concept and the execution. Some of the best photos I've ever taken weren't on the latest camera body or lens, but an older, simpler camera, or even my phone. Why? Because photography, like plating, isn't about the gear. It's about light, composition and story. It's about creativity and working with what you have. And the same applies to you as a chef. The beauty of your plate doesn't come from the cost of your tools. It comes from your creativity, your vision, and your ability to tell a story with food. Now, don't get me wrong, gear has a place. A sharp knife makes prep easier. Quality pans make cooking smoother. But don't let the lack of these things stop you from creating. Gas is really just an excuse we give ourselves, a way to avoid starting because we're afraid the work won't be good enough. Trust me, I've been there. But I've also learned that some of my best work happens when I push past the need for perfection and just get started. So here's my advice. Don't let gas get in your way. Don't convince yourself that you can't plate beautifully without the most expensive ceramics or high-end tools. Start with what you have. Focus on the things that really matter, the concept, the balance, the light. The magic comes from you, not the equipment. And when you do get that fancy knife or gorgeous pan, use it, appreciate it, but don't let it define your work. Because at the end of the day, it's not the tools that make the art, it's the artist. Plating is about more than food, it's about art. Light, composition, colour, storytelling, and growth are all part of the process. So here's my challenge to you. Start documenting your plates. Pay attention to the details. How light hits the dish, how the elements come together, and what story are you telling? Now, composition plays a massive part in photography and plating. So if you'd like to know more, click on the video here.